What is up, Zoneheads? Welcome in to another edition of the Zoneheads Orlando podcast. Today's episode proudly sponsored by AuthenticAudioPro.com. Producing radio commercials costs a whole lot of coin. Producing radio or podcasts in general, if you want them done properly, not going to be cheap. Most production companies are going to quote you in the range of $1,000 to $2,500, depending on inclusions like music, voice actors, and editing, just for an ad, not even distributing that ad, just for an ad. They're going to end up charging you all of that. I work in the industry. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I run this website, AuthenticAudioPro.com, would never charge you that much. I want to help small business owners tell their story in a professional manner. And as I describe to people that look at ways to market their business, today's landscape is so different. The world of media is changing. Telling your own story, there is such inherent value in that, rather than handing copy points to someone else and letting them tell your story. Tell your own. Cut up pieces of that. Share that on your social feeds. Email newsletters. People delete those instantaneously. This is the wave of the future. I can help you get there. AuthenticAudioPro.com for more information on that. Today, this episode that you are listening to, if you like to listen to this in sequential order, this will be the last episode for the next 2 weeks. We're taking a little summer break on the Zoneheads Orlando podcast feed. So thank you to all of you that have made this part of your new routine. In the grand scheme of the podcast world, we are fairly new to the game, and it's been exciting. The feedback that we've gotten is tremendous. The team that we've got on board with Sean Green and the UCF Report, posted every Tuesday morning. The Loud and Proud crew with Luis, John, and Paula, they drop an episode every Wednesday talking about Orlando City and the Orlando Pride, and of course Greg Rhodes on Thursday with the Underreported. So it's been a lot of fun. We're not going anywhere. We're just taking a little hiatus after today's episode. And today's episode is going to be something unique. I asked Magic fans, what NFL team do you cheer for? I'm starting to get football on the brain, and we try and keep this episode that is posted on Fridays Magic-centric, but not just going to talk Magic alone. We're going to talk ways that this fandom spins off into other arenas as well. And I love me some NFL, love me some fantasy and betting on. I'm actually looking into week 1 betting lines already because I'm starting to get that little taste for it. So we've got all that coming up on today's episode. Apparently, we lost a good one. I did not know this woman, but apparently fans seem pretty distraught over it. Talking Magic fans, of course. I combed through her Twitter account talking about Mama Deb, and it seemed like my kind of lady. So RIP to a woman affectionately known as Mama Deb, an OG Magic fan. And I've seen people come out of the woodwork saying great things about her. So hopefully, Mama Deb, you can pull some strings with the man upstairs, maybe get this crew a championship. And I'm sure that they would love to win one in your honor. So again, I don't want to offer too many words about somebody that I don't know personally, but clearly this is someone that meant something to Magic faithful out there. So RIP to Mama Deb. We have officially ventured into that time of year, the doldrums. And no sense in beating around the bush here. The casuals have left for the summer already. They'll come back when the NBA season ramps back up, and we've got fresh Magic basketball to talk about beyond the media days and all of that coverage that we get in late September, the start of the year. And, of course, the football season coming up, college football. You know, I do a live sports talk radio show 3 hours a day, 5 days a week in the zone. Many of you listening to this already know that. So I got to tell you, if you're listening to this right now, if you have pressed this button, you are either a lifer or you have found us by accident. And if the latter of the two is the case, well, you have made a great mistake. And no, hang around. We'd love to have you on board. This is the time of year where I always tell people that ask me, like, what do you talk about this time of year? This time of year can be very difficult for sports talk radio hosts because on most days in the heat of, October, November, December, you wake up in the morning and you have to decide between 3 or 4 topics of what you're going to lead with that day. Once you get into late May, once you get into the real summer months of June, July, and early August, sometimes those topics smack you over the head, but more times than not, rather than having to decipher between 3 or 4 topics and going, okay, which one do I feel the most passionate about? You have to actually dig something up out of the mud. You wake up with nothing on your plate and you have to create something of interest. And so that's the difference. But I view that as a challenge. And I think that you can have fun with that. It's also a time of experimentation because frankly, you lose listeners in sports talk radio and through podcasting this time of year. That's natural. Sports talk is a funny business. And this is my free life lessons sesh to open up here because I know a lot of people that want to get into the industry and people view this as a dream job. And it is in a lot of ways. But keep in mind, it is still a job. The dream is to be laid up on the beach with no bills and no debt and no one asking you to do anything ever. And if you want to pop on and chat about something via any sort of microphone device you've got that's over there in your hut, then you can go ahead and do that, but without any sort of schedule. This time of year does shine a light on the challenges that the job presents, the challenge of creativity, the challenge of desire and consistency and morale. I've worked with so many people over the years since I started in 2010. And one of the things that you'll notice is that this time of year, all of a sudden, people tend to start to sag off in terms of the motivation, the interest in the job. And all of a sudden you realize this dream job that you had, you might think you're a sports fan, but do you really talk and obsess about sports every single day to the point where you're talking to people about it for several hours a day, every single work day of the week? Now, some of you that might apply. And if so, you might just want to venture on over to this business. But for most people, most well-adjusted people, you have other interests, and those interests tend to shine through this time of year. So just keep that in mind, because the news cycle never stops once you get yourself into that hamster wheel. This is not me complaining. I love this job, and I have actually found, like I said, a lot of joy in this time of year, but this is where the challenge comes from. If you are listening to me right now and your thought is, I want to try and do this, I want to get into the sports talk radio industry, don't think about what your life would be like in October. Think about what your life would be like in late May. And if the answer to that is, I would still love every single second of it, then do it. That is how you should frame this as you decide whether or not to make this huge change. Now, of course, we could get into the pay and all of that. That's a different discussion for another day. And honestly, anybody that's listening to this, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about it because I know there's a lot of curiosity about the industry and where it's going and what it pays and all of those things. Reach out to me. I'm happy to have that conversation. I'm easy to find on social. The toughest part of doing sports talk radio specifically in this city, in the city of Orlando, is trying to nail down exactly what this market cares about. Just anecdotally, I have seen just as many Eagles sports bars, Ravens sports bars, Green Bay Packers. I've gone to a Green Bay Packers bar. I'm not a Packers fan, but they're fun to hang out with, and they're on Sunday Night Football all the time. I've seen just as many Eagles, Ravens, Packers bars as I've seen Bucks bars during the football season. I will say the Dolphins tend to stand out as the most popular NFL team in this town, but I'm not sure that this is a completely objective opinion by me. I am a Dolphins fan, so I tend to seek that out more, and I also attract that sort of attention from our listeners. A lot of the emails that I get from people that listen to me on the daily are Dolphins fans that want to talk about the team. So I think things for me personally can tend to skew that way. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I still don't know. I still don't know when I crack a mic in the afternoon, what audience am I reaching today? Am I tapping in to the most dense portion of our sports talk audience? And that kind of stuff can drive you crazy. I've found ways around it, which we will talk about. But I asked a question on Twitter early this morning, a non-scientific sports poll that tackles this exact topic, a cross sports research project, because I wanted to frame this in a different way. We've asked this question over the years to Orlando sports fans: which NFL team do you cheer for? I want to ask specifically Magic fans, what team do Magic fans cheer for? Now, a lot of those fans do live in the city of Orlando, so there's a lot of cross-pollination in terms of the answers. But a lot of Magic fans come from other places as well. There are people that live in Ohio and Louisiana that cheer for the Magic. So I wanted to stretch beyond that. Central Florida sports fans primarily exist within the greater Orlando area, but not all of them. So I'm just asking this in a different way. Threw this out there early this morning. It's gotten a pretty good response. As of right now, we're talking about about 150 votes on this, which, as Twitter polls go, can give you a general idea of how people are feeling. So again, I asked the question, which NFL team do you cheer for as a Magic fan? 37% of the vote say other. So the four options were Dolphins, Jags, Bucks, and other. 37% of the vote say other. So I think part of that is it speaks to the melting pot that is the city of Orlando. It also speaks to the fact that you have Magic fans that do not reside in Orlando. And so they are far less likely to cheer for one of those three in-state teams. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the Florida team that received the most votes at 27%, the Jacksonville Jaguars at 21%, which really shocks me, and the Dolphins at 16%. Now, if you were to ask me, I would say it would go Dolphins, Bucks, other, Jags would probably be the order. Other's tough because other encompasses so many different teams. Let me reframe this. If I were to answer this based on what I have noticed over the years of what NFL teams Magic fans / Orlando sports fans cheer for, other would be number one. And there's a lot of teams that are in that bucket. So that's part of the reason why. Dolphins would be 2, Bucks 3, Jags 4. That's the way that I would have it. I know so many Steelers fans, Giants fans, Eagles fans, Ravens fans. They're all over the place. And I see it on the text line. Our text line every single day, we get a question about some team that isn't anywhere close to us in terms of proximity. So I believe that wholeheartedly. That is my very unscientific poll, and you take it with a grain here. But I also looked this up on subreddit, which, based on your opinion of Reddit, is either more or less scientific than my fly-by-night poll. But a lot of the people that responded to this question was, which Florida-based NFL team do y'all Magic fans and people of Orlando support? I just want to see which team gets the majority of support from all of you, since you guys don't have an NFL team. So very well worded and exactly kind of what I was looking for. So there is a subreddit on this that has it has 87 comments, most of which I'm not going to read all these to you. There's a lot of Bucks. There's a lot of Dolphins. I see more Jags than anything else. So my point in this is I stumbled through my own answer of how I would describe Orlando Magic fan NFL support. We see the Twitter poll tell us something that's completely out of whack from what I would expect. We have this Reddit thread that is all over the place. And I think it just speaks to exactly what I'm talking about, where I say the hardest part of doing this job, because the football world is there. I mean, it's huge as far as interest. And so I talk football all the time. But what do you lean heaviest into so that you hit the densest population of sports fans within your audience? Answering that question is nearly impossible when you look at how splintered we are in this city in terms of our interests. So, in my humble opinion, the answer to the question is all. The answer to the question is none in terms of who Magic fans cheer for. Honestly, it's one of the reasons that I talk so much about sports betting and fantasy football is that I feel in my gut you're hitting the largest portion of a listening audience because there are just as many individuals listening to sports talk in Orlando, Florida, as there that are interested in fantasy and or sports betting as there are of any one particular team. So I can research this until I'm blue in the face, but I kind of feel like I have my answer, even if that answer is completely undefined. Hope that helped. I hope that helped. I hope that helped all of us sort of put this into some sort of framework. I will answer this question and ask this question again and again and again until they kick me out of this great city. But for now, my answer is fantasy sports betting, and we're completely all over the place. For those that are watching on YouTube, I'm cutting this off now. For those that are listening on the podcast feed, Maura Carey from golflive.com, who covers the Dolphins, the Jags, and the Buccaneers, joins us now.